Welcome to the Wealth Wave podcast. This is episode 1 for the podcast today. My name is Caleb Solomon. I'm the co-founder of Jara Capital, and I'm here with my co-host and co-founder, Toyi Morikano. How's it going, my brother?
I'm doing well, brother. Episode 1, let's do it.
Let's do it. Listen, we've been planning on doing this podcast for the past, 6 months, and I'm glad that it's finally here. And the goal here is obviously, like we always say, is to try to educate the masses about what is happening in the real estate industry verticals. I mean, in terms of investment, and also help people to understand what is going on in the economy and also in technology as well. Correct?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
I think that's the passion. That's the goal, right? The more we can educate the masses, the more we can have an enlightened community, understanding what's going on in the world today, and then how do we all set ourselves and our family up for success.
Yeah, wonderful. But apart from that, how's everything going with you, though? How is family doing? How's the baby? How's everything? How's everyone doing?
Family's doing well. Things are going great. The weather's cooling down here in Dallas, Texas. We thank God after a hot summer. For anybody who's been to Dallas this summer, we all know we had a brutal summer. It was incredibly hot, but things are cooling down, so we're grateful for that. How about you?
Things are going well. Work is good. The wife is doing great, and we're just hoping that the weather stays cooler until it gets colder in the winter. So there's a lot we're going to talk about today. We have a fully packed agenda, and I'll give you a quick synopsis of what we're going to talk about today. So we have 3 main topics that we're going to be discussing today. One on real estate, where we're going to be talking about, is it a good time to buy a house today? There's a lot of chatter about buying a house, renting a house. What do you want to do, or what is the best path for you? Number 2, we're going to be talking about, is the American dream dead? I mean, I think there's a poll that came out about a week ago talking about 94% of Americans believe that owning a house is part of the American dream. Is owning a house today in 2023 or in the past 5 an American dream? We'll talk about it. Also, the economy. Is it going to be a recession? Is it going to be a hard landing, soft landing? We're going to be talking about that too. And also in the technology space, the biggest term today is around, generative AI and its impact in business. So we have a fully packed agenda we're going to be talking about today. So back it up, get you some popcorn, and let's dive into the session today. So Toyi, before we delve in, I wanted to, obviously there's been a lot of chatter about, is it a good time to buy a home today? And I'm going to share my quick, a screen and show you what, people are talking about in terms of buying a home. There's an article that came out, with Lending Tree. It talked about, said 94% of Americans today say owning a home is part of the American dream, but 51% who don't own a home fear they never will. And also there's an article that came from the federal government that, America's housing crisis has hit a new inflection point. I think. And also a graph about, I think there's a graph that a chatter came out, say 54 is now 54% cheaper to rent than to own. So with all these data points hovering around today, Toyi, I'd like to hear your perspective about, buying or renting and yeah.
Listen, this article is quite interesting. 94% of Americans say they still want to own a home. So is the American dream dead? Well, the desire is still alive and well. Let's say that, right? Since the beginning of times, especially earlier here in America, the desire to own a home is part of what means the American dream. If 94% of Americans are still saying they want homes, that is still alive and well in terms of the desire. But we are in an interesting market today more than ever, and that is partially being driven, one, we all know interest rates. Before, I think about 3 years ago, I had a friend who had bought a condo, and she refinanced her house at roughly about 2.7% is what she refinanced a home at, right? Today, there was a recent article that says your 30-year fixed mortgage is now above 8%. So you can imagine somebody 2-3 years ago who bought a condo and was able to refinance at 2.7% versus somebody today who's trying to buy at a mortgage rate of 8%. Incredibly tough, and it's taken a lot of desired buyers out of the market. But I don't think it's fully taking them out the market. I think it's actually putting them on the sideline. So is the dream dead? I say no. I say it is delayed. Because if you own a home today and you are in a 3%, right? If you are in a home today and you have a 3% mortgage, naturally you're thinking, if I don't have to leave, I'm just going to wait. So instead of you selling your home, you actually sit on the sideline and you're waiting because you think interest rates is going to come down. And if I am somebody who's currently renting and I see the 8% interest rates and a higher mortgage payments, I'd rather just sit and stay in my current home. So you're delaying the desire, but is the dream dead? Absolutely not. For years, Americans have been programmed to go out and want to go buy a home. They still want to go out and buy a home. They're just waiting for what they believe to be the right time.
Well, I think I probably have to say I respectfully disagree with your analysis, my good friend and my partner. I think to me, the American dream is dead. And I think, here's why. We need to figure out, I think the biggest misconception that most people think about the American dream is that you have to have a house. If it was in the early 90s or back in 1998 and 1990, then you could say that, okay, I need to have a house to achieve the American dream. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a house to achieve the American dream. My philosophy is we need to redefine what does the American dream mean for people. Is it owning a home? Yes, owning a home could be a part of your portfolio in terms of building wealth. But the question is, do you want to own a home or do you want to invest? Because owning a home is different from investing in a home. And we saw what happened in the 2008 crisis where people own homes and they ended up, their investment was underwater. So what I always try to, talk to, my friends is about, guys, listen, I understand you want to live the American dream, but the American dream for the 21st century is different from the American dream back in the 20th century. Back in the 20th century, yes, owning a home was the quickest rate path. But in my perspective, I think the American dream is about trying to figure out what your skill sets are and starting a business around that skill set to build the American dream. And then in that portfolio set, so I agree with the context of obviously buying in terms of owning a home right now is difficult or is delayed. But if you're going to be talking about the American dream, which is about, you working at not necessarily having to work, or you doing what you want to do, traveling around the world and having disposable income, basically do whatever you want to do, I don't think owning a home is actually the American dream. I think owning a home can actually be an American nightmare if you don't know how to manage it. To that you say what?
To that I say you've got this completely wrong, brother. A home for a lot of people is not just about the investment piece, right? Fundamentally, and if you look at the recent survey that did come out, right, partially from LendingTree, that did say 84% of the people that were surveyed say they'll rather own a home than rent it. So that's one. So 84% of people today still say I'd rather own a home than rent it. And the biggest factor when they broke it down was, well, what's the biggest reason? People associate owning their own home with a sense of flexibility and stability. And that is kind of a core human desire. So I want a home, not just because, yes, it can potentially grow in equity and it's a way to build generational wealth, as we throw that term around, is because, one, I want a place that gives me the freedom to be able to do anything I want to do. There are restrictions. Yes, even if you own a home, there are some restrictions, but you generally have a bit more freedom, right? I can paint, I can do so many different things in my own home, customize it to fit my need. And then two, especially as the average Americans, right, as they go, you have the millennials who are now reaching the age where they're starting to grow a family. The desire for stability for your family becomes more important. That's why the desire to own a home, it's been ingrained in the American mind that that's the path. That's what it means to be an American. That's what it means to achieve freedom. That is not going anyway anytime soon. But an 8% interest rate environment where interest rates were at 2.5% just 3 years ago will delay that dream, and that's exactly what we're seeing in the market today.
No, I get all your points about, and I think I'll probably share the screen again so we can double click on your analysis about what you had mentioned about why people want to, buy a home versus rent. So, for example, I think this was the the data I was talking about, the flexibility. You talked about flexibility. They want stability because they started a new home. The pride of ownership. I get all of that, but my retort is going to be, can't you achieve that same flexibility or stability or the no? I mean the whatever building wealth through renting? You can have those same experiences by renting than actually by owning. Because think about owning. You have to worry about maintenance cost. You have to worry about property taxes. And come on, it's not free. It's not like owning a home is free. You got to pay a mortgage. If you don't pay a mortgage, they're going to repossess it.
They're going to take that.
So these are some of the things that
on it.
Right, the bank is going to foreclose on it. So my thing is that great, we need to own a home, but the key question is about the American dream. What does the American dream mean to you? It could mean several things for other people. Some people, like I said, it could be flexibility. Some people about, freedom to do whatever they want to do. And if you firmly believe that owning a home is part of that portfolio for you, sir, go ahead and do it. But in my opinion, I would rather rent. Why? Because it will give you more disposable income to achieve whatever I wanted to do. My travels, to start a business, a small cookie shop and sell it online via Shopify, whatever the case may be, or to do whatever I want to do. So that is what I think about the American dream in terms of not necessarily ownership being the linchpin. Ownership is probably a piece of the puzzle to attaining that vision for your family.
I'm going to agree with part of it, but I do think where we need, as an average American needs to understand is buying a home is not necessarily the best way of growing wealth, right? Like oftentimes people think, oh yeah, I'm going to go buy a home because that's my best route to build wealth for my family. And that's not necessarily the case, right? Like if you own a home, there are so many things that comes with being a homeowner, to your point. There's a maintenance of it, right? You have to be fully prepared on the taxes, the property taxes, the insurance. We're seeing insurance go up. Things are going to break in a home. You have to be able and adequate enough to be able to manage it. So this is something that constantly takes money out of your pocket. So if you're, oh yes, I'm buying a home because I see it as the way of building this financial freedom, that's not necessarily the best route. There are so many different ways in terms of being able to build investments, whether you talk about stocks, there's opportunity of actual rental property. Now, if you see buying your home as a step of, okay, I'm just using it because I want to get in and a low down payment and then be able to rent it out and then move to another property. And some people have done that, absolutely. But I do think we have to educate the masses of, oh, I'm going to go buy my own home because that's my best bet to build generational wealth and it's an investment. We've got to get out of that mindset. It is a home. It is a place that I'm paying for. And maybe it's not the best financial investment, but it gives me stability. It gives me the flexibility for me and my family. And sure, I will have some equity to pass along to my next of kin once I pass away. But is it really the best investment vehicle? Absolutely not. But I don't think the average American is thinking about it that way.
No, I agree. And again, I think especially when it comes to investing, most people don't know the nuances that, goes into investing. There's a lot you have to look into, whether, the cost of capital involved or whether it's about doing your due diligence. Most the middle class to lower class Americans today do not even have the time. Most of them are doing 2 to 3 jobs. So most of them are like, listen, let me just get me a home. So I get the concept around, let me just give me a place where I can lay my head, where, I could, build an experience for my children and my family, where a place where we could build some memories. So I totally understand where you're coming from. So with that, given that, obviously today there's a big supply shock in the market. There's huge demand. There's a lot of people. There's basically more people looking for homes and less supply in the market. So you're giving your perspective in terms of how you look for homes today. What are some of the things that you look for in terms of looking for home? Is it location? Is it around here? Listen, I don't care where is it. I just want to buy where people are going to. Like, what are some of the key areas that you can advise our audience to own a home or to invest today in this market conditions?
The market that we're in, you've touched on a great point around the supply and demand. That equation is currently off, and the kind of person who's looking to buy a home for their family, their criteria is a little different than I think you and I, right? As real estate investors who own properties here in Texas, our criteria of where we look for, what we invest in, what we bought, and where we'll look to buy, in the coming years, those criteria are going to be a little different. When when I'm shopping for a home for me and my family, I've got a daughter now. One of the things that's important is environment and school district, right? So people are looking again, where exactly is the best school district possible for me to raise my daughter, right, my sons, future generations. Where's that? Two is what environment is safe, right? Safety is important. As you're trying to look for a home of, where is safe for me and my family, that becomes important. Third, and what used to be really important as a driver was, well, how far, location in terms of reference to your job. Typically, right, you can draw a map between where you work. Most people work and they'll draw maybe a 45-minute circle and say, that's my radius. I do not want to live anywhere that's more than 45 minutes away from my workplace. We do know what we've seen, though, right, is with the pandemic, that's been upended. Most people these days are working from home. And even if you're hybrid, you're working 3 to 4 days at home and maybe 1 or 2 days in the office. So if before my radius was 45 minutes, now I might be comfortable doing an hour and a half. So that's a factor. Where now location, you have a wider spread of location of where you're looking at to buy a home, as long as it hits the checklist of school district and safety for your family. On the investment side, though, right, that's a little different, right? From an investor side, I'm looking at what's the demographics, right? What is the demographics? Who are the people who are living here? Is that population growth? You're looking at population growth. You're looking at what kind of jobs are in those spaces, and then who are the people that's being hired. Because that's important, because if you own a property, let's call it, so the three investment classes from a multifamily. You got Class A properties, right? That's your top of the line. That's where your white collar professionals, somebody who brand new properties. These are kind of your premium ask in terms of rent. So these are brand new. They have pools, they have tennis courts, basketballs. These are premium places. But when you have those kind of property, you need to also make sure that they're going to be located in an area where that's you have the right population to meet, right? You have the right population to be able to meet your demand, right? To be able to supply it there. So you need to make sure, hey, it's Amazon, headquarter in Virginia. If you own a brand new Class A property, you might have the right demographics in those spaces who are willing to pay the premium. If you go to B, Class B, which is right, underneath, it's a little older property. We're talking maybe 15 to 30 plus years. It's got some pools and some amenities, but it might not be state of the art, might not be brand new. You're looking at that middle segment, right? You're still looking at the middle class, but am I looking at, okay, are there enough jobs in that area to make sure that my potential tenants are going to have a great job? They're going to have source of income to pay my rent. And then when you go to your C class property, that's really that workforce. That's really that blue collar properties. And if that's kind of property that you're buying, you want to make sure that's the demographics that's in that space and you can meet the demand. So when I'm looking at my personal home, I'm thinking school district, I'm thinking environment, and how far maybe from a specific location. From rental, we're looking at population growth, we're looking at the workforce, we're looking at the demand, right? In terms of what are the competition that's in that area. And if I bring my property online, is there still enough demand to be able to certainly fill for my vacancies? No,
I think you actually said everything accurately. You're definitely spot on, especially if I'm a single family. I have a family of 4. I'm looking for a home to live in. I think definitely location is key, and obviously the foundational piece of the location, which is definitely the key principle in real estate, is safety. You want to make sure that your kids can go out and play and not get shot. I think it's definitely critical that you have that location, obviously. And also, I mean, jobs is very, very critical as well. I want to be in this place where companies are moving into, because by them moving into that, it brings more demand, and that drives the value of your property, given the supply and demand dynamics. And obviously also talking about the there's the environment in total, like the retail shops and the whole environment is definitely essential for that. But I think for me, where I like to double click on this around, you have to do your due diligence. And why do I say that? There's been lots of people who have currently been scammed by potential people who claim that they are, I'm going to make you rich by investing in real estate, or I'm going to help you find a house, and they don't do their due diligence, and they give them a house that, because they didn't get a chance to do a due diligence on the property, the foundation was probably crumbling, or there was some structural components to it, and you end up paying more than you actually bargained for. So due diligence, please, is very, very key. Find you an amazing realtor who's actually going to work for you, not for himself. That's number 2. Make sure you find a realtor that is working for you, that has the fiduciary responsibility of working for you and not for himself, because realtors are salespeople. They're trying to make money. They get paid on a percentage of the sales price. Right. So you have to let them know clearly, these are the specifications based on the location, based on the environment, based on the neighborhood, and this is the amount that you can spend. Can you find me something that aligns with my financials? Or else they'll keep upselling across, and then it breaks the budget. That's a critical component, especially in a market where there's going to be potential recession, looming. You want to make sure that you are a fully financially sound to own a home before you actually get into it. So that is a quick, a tip I wanted to add in here.
No, I mean,
that's any comment, any thoughts on that?
Especially on the residential side, you've hit a great point of the realtors on the right. The realtors that you decide to work with can make or break kind of your home buying experience. And you're right. If you partner with the right folks who have your best interest in mind, sometimes somebody might be able to educate you, and that's how you know when you have a good partner, or you have a good realtors. Maybe this is not the right time to buy a home for you, right? I understand. We talked a lot about the American dream early on. I understand, maybe you have the human desire, you have the desire to buy a home because we've all been droned and inculcated with the message of buy a home, buy a home, buy a home. But, after somebody reviews maybe your financial situation, your home situation, maybe, and you're in a job market where you're not fully stable, you could have a realtor who advises and say, maybe you need to pause your search, or let us refine your budget, rather than somebody who comes along and thinks, hey, your budget is $500, let me help you find a home that's $600, stretching your budget out, but I'm only worried about your commission. So for a lot of us, we have to get educated. You can't just leave your, especially, the survey shows that people's homes are the largest purchase they ever make in their life. So you can't just afford to leave the largest purchase you'll ever make in your life to somebody else's hand. You have to do your due diligence, stay on top of it, and look to partner with realtors who are verified, who comes well recommended, who you build a great relationship of trust and can really rely on.
Yeah, and just one final point I want to ask. Listen, do not keep up with the Joneses. Everybody wants to claim they are an investor. They're on Instagram flashing their cars. Guys, do your due diligence. Do your own research. I'm going to repeat it again. Do your own work, because this is, like as Toyi mentioned, it's going to be one of the largest investment purchases in your portfolio or in your balance, in your own balance sheet. You want to make sure that if you're going to be making this large purchase, that you do a due diligence. Also, number 2, don't keep up with the Joneses. Maybe now's not the time for you to buy a house. It's fine. Rent. Don't compare yourself to, your buddy got a big house and you're trying to compete with him. No, guys, listen. You have your own vision. You have your own path. Everybody's going to be successful. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard. Keep saving. Keep doing the right personal financial management stuff that you need to do. Don't spend more than you earned. Put some money in your savings account or your emergency fund. Get it set up. Make sure that you are controlling your credit card debt. Any debt you have, manage it until you can personally manage these things. You don't want to bring on a huge debt burden on yourself and then it crumbles on you. So that's a key component to that. Understanding how to effectively manage your own personal finance is definitely essential to owning a home. So I wanted to just say that before I move to the next topic.
Now, do you have any tips to your point? You said one of the big things that you and I keep stressing on is due diligence, due diligence, which is important. But I feel like sometimes you use terms. Sometimes you might use a term that is very high level. Let's bring it down to let's bring it down to the ground here. What are some steps, right? You're buying a home. You're trying to do your due diligence. what is 2-3 things that you would do, just to give people an example of what it means to do your own due diligence?
Yeah. So the 2-3 things I'm going to, number one is about, don't buy the first house that you see. I would say evaluate a minimum of 10 houses to pick the kiss more frogs to get your queen. It is very essential because you can see an amazing house. You're like, oh man, this is it. No, you need to evaluate multiple homes to pick the best one that fits your price. That's number one in terms of the due diligence. And obviously, once you find that home, make sure that you hire how do you call it, the
inspectors.
The inspectors to inspect the home from top to bottom, from the roofing all the way down to the foundation. It's very essential. Electrical work, structural work, and let them present to you with a report. And based on that report, you can either renegotiate the pricing terms based on what you've seen in the report and say, hey, listen, based on what I'm seeing in this report, the roofing is about 30 years old. Like, and the structural problems, like, I can't buy it for $500,000. It has to be like at least $300,000 based on what I'm seeing. So you can use that as a way to arm yourself to renegotiate your price. So that's number one. So you kiss more frogs and then hire inspectors to inspect it. Number two is about, I think the key component is about finding who your realtor is. I typically work with people who are experienced. I'm sorry, listen. This is the most important purchase of my lifetime. Right. I don't want anyone who is 3 years in the game, 4 years. No, I want someone who is 20, 30 years in the game with experience and has a track record. And feel free to call their client. Ask them, listen, do you have any customers or do you have any clients that I could talk to learn about how you work with them? Because you want to understand exactly how they work and also their track record. It's extremely essential because there's a lot of sleazy, realtors out there who claim that they're going to help you, but they end up not actually helping you. So that is another component to it. And I'll say the final component to it is about the financing piece. Listen, the truth is older than the lie. you know you can afford a property. You know it based on your phone. Don't lie to yourself. If you can afford it, rent. There's dignity in rented, just as there's dignity in owning a home. Do not know. A lot of people get beat down because they feel like they have to own a home to be valuable. No, you are valuable just by who you are. You're a human being. So if you look at your financial status, you've done the math. And the mortgage price came up to be whatever, let's say $2,000 with maintenance costs and everything and insurance, and you feel like $4,000 is too much for you, decline and say, you know what? I'm going to work extremely hard to get more money so that way I could be able to purchase a home. That is the key 3 things that you need to. Number 1, kiss more frogs to find your queen and do your due diligence. Number 2, you want to make sure you have an amazing realtor. That will help you make more money at the buy, not at the sale. That is a critical component in real estate. You want to make sure that you are making money when you're buying because the realtor helped you find that property in a great location with great growth prospects. So you know that in 5 to 10 years, if you even don't do anything, you manage the property, you stay in it, you manage it, organically it's going to grow in value. And then you can potentially refinance to do something else, or you can exit and buy your multi-million-dollar home. That is how. And the third thing is about sticking with your financials. Be a stickler. Be stubborn about your finances. If you can afford it, decline it, and trust me, that is more peace of mind.
That is true.
Than peace of hell.
Listen, that's some great advice that you shared. But I've known some people to walk in the first home and they're like, this is it, no more. So, but great advice, Caleb. I plus everything.
Yeah, yes, sir. So the next topic we're going to be talking about the economy, and I think the 2 topics that we had mentioned. What I'm talking about was there's been a lot of talks about recession. I think, as we all know, the pandemic, hit us technically was the Q4 of 2019 December, but it heightened in America in 2020 of February, and there's a lot of things that happened in the market. A lot of stimulus packages got released in the market, and in terms of trying to stabilize, global economies were actually disrupted as well. And since that time, I think interest rates have increased about 11 times. It's now sitting at 5.25 to 5.5% for Fed funds rates. There's talk of recession. Will it happen this year, 2023, 2024, 2025? What the heck is going on? And I think this week the GDP came up. We actually blew a Q3 GDP was 2.3% GDP. If I'm accurate, I may have to do some research on that. But So, Toyi, from your perspective, I mean,
For
are the economics wrong? What did they miss?
Listen, to your point, yeah. So the real adjusted GDP was really recently announced for Q3. That number was 4.9, and the expectation
4.9. Wow.
was 4.7. 4.9 expectation being 4.7, and to your point, I believe consumer spending was about 2.3 points of that 4.9. So we're seeing strong consumer spending in Q3. I mean, the results are showing. People still got money. The economy is still strong. A lot of money was spent in Q3. A lot of money. And it blew, to your point, the economists' forecast out the water. And so we're seeing kind of a stronger economy than we thought. Consumer spending is still much stronger than we thought we would see at this point. Actually, if you compare it to what Q2 did, I believe consumer spending in Q2 were about less than a percentage point. And now we're seeing at 2.3. So to give you a reference, we are in an environment today where we thought with interest rates, right, at where they are, we thought with high inflation, by come Q3 of 2023 would either be in a recession or a significant economic slowed activity. We are not seeing that right now. We are not seeing that. Now, part of that is because unemployment rate, it's still very, very low. It's still significantly lower, right? We've seen unemployment rates rise slowly. So I believe last month was just about 10,000 new unemployment claims. But 10,000, that number is still very low if you consider, right, the overall working population. So companies, yes, they did some resizing early on, but people who got laid off, they were able to get jobs. So the economy is still strong because unemployment is still very low. Interest rates are high, but right, remember we flushed a lot of money into the economy over the past 2-3 years. So consumer spending is still strong, right? Consumers are still feeling well. Unemployment is still significantly low, and we saw the number in Q3. Now, the forecast, we're seeing economists be wrong again, but the forecast is that as we go into the holiday season, that we do expect consumer spending to be much slower, right? To slow down and to be significantly less than what we see in Q3. The assumption as well is that we are going to avoid a recession, but in turn, they do expect the Feds to keep higher interest rates for a longer period of time. So interest rates might stay flat or increase a little bit, but we now expect them to, initial forecasts were showing that potentially interest rates might come down in 2024. Now forecasts are starting to push to end of 2025, early 2026, because the economy is still so strong and we're still seeing significant consumer spending.
Right. No, I think that's exactly well said. So I guess the question is, how did we get here? And I wanted to just share my screen to break it up for the audience how we actually got here. And this is with respect to Investopedia. So I think 5 packages got released into the market. So the first package was, the first relief package, which was signed under, I believe, was about $8.3 billion signed by President Trump in March 2026, and this was to fund research of vaccine, which is a good thing because we're all confused. What is going on? Am I going to die? The people with the what do they call it, with the comorbidities or with like asthma and stuff like that. Everybody was just panicking. So I think they thought, hey, let's invest in a vaccine. Scary time, serious time. So that was the first thing we did. The second one was the stimulus relief package to the First Families Coronavirus Response Act, which also released billions of dollars, nearly $1 billion of additional unemployment insurance money to people as well. The third one was the CARES Act, which gave people COVID money, $1,200 per person, $500 per child.
Check. People were happy.
So people, I mean, come on. It's a lot of money sloshing in the system. $150 billion went to states and local government, $30 billion for schools and universities, $500 billion to government lending to companies during the pandemic. But also the biggest stickler here is, I think, was the PPP loans, I mean, there was a lot of even though there was a lot of scam in the system. People just fake creating like LLC to claim they were companies, but so we have all this money slashing this about 5 packages, which is I'm not sure this was about 5 trillion or 10 trillion. I'm not sure about the number. So audience, do attack me for it? Roughly $5 trillion released in the market. So I think it stalled the recession. When you look at all the metrics, whether it's a credit card that was all-time high, auto loan delinquencies is coming up. People can't afford their auto delinquencies anymore because now all the stimulus checks are, the savings are draining down. Student loan payments are back online. You have to pay your student loan bills, and student loans are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. Combine this, the consumer market with companies as well. Companies have huge debts that they need to service. Yes, earnings report came out this week. I think Amazon was in the positive, Microsoft is in the positive in terms of earnings, but there's still lots of Meta as well came out positive as well. So the thing is that are the economists wrong? I think. I mean, technically, you can say they are wrong because they predicted end of Q3,
Man, they
Q4.
Are wrong. Just say it, they are wrong.
Okay, well, they are wrong. They are wrong technically, but I think it's probably delayed. Now, the question is, as you and I will probably know, nobody can predict a recession. If somebody can predict it, they will make billions of dollars. They will trade against it. So the question is, what can we do now, or what can our audience do right now to, I guess, mitigate themselves against recessionary pressure, whether in the workforce or whether it's their personal finance? What should they be thinking about right now to make sure that they are not fully impacted by the financial storm coming up?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And to your point, though, right, as we are seeing significant debt levels rise, right, and even in a personal household, what we need to underguard that with, though, is we still have low employment rates overall. So even people who got laid off, they were able to get jobs. So and I've seen that even in my own community of people who were impacted by a lot of the tech layoffs and things that happened early in the year. They all have been rehired within 3 months. Everyone that I know that's been laid off early in the year have now found jobs within the 3 to 4 months. So unemployment levels are still pretty low. However, personally, we all have to take responsibility for our own financial situation, right? Each of us has to be managing our own household because we're all business owners. We are all CEOs of an incorporation, and that is your first and last name Inc. Right?
Yes.
So you've got to make sure that your finances are well aligned. And that means first, we all got to be taking a look at what exactly is coming in. What exactly is coming in and what exactly is going out.
It's going out.
Step one to one of your points when we were talking about the real estate early on. If what is going out is more than what is coming in, you've got a problem. You've got a problem. Regardless of how much you're making, if you're spending more than you're making, you've got a problem. And even if you remain employed, it's only a matter of time before you end up in bankruptcy or large enough debt that then creates stress, anxiety, and really can ruin people's lives. So that's step one, just looking at what's coming in versus what's going out. And then two is let's look at what exactly is going out. How much of this, we all have to revise our budgets. I think people sometimes they think, oh, if I make a lot of money, it's okay for me to just spend lavishly and spend a lot of money. Even corporations, Amazon has fiscal discipline. They don't just spend money because we're a multi-billion-dollar organization. We're just going to constantly spend money. No, they look for ways to spend money. A lot of Apple look for ways to save money. Apple makes sure it's fiscally disciplined in its allocation of its own resources. And we're talking about a company that has more cash in banks than people will ever see in their lifetimes. And they run their organization incredibly. They're well-run and well-organized. We all need to take the same approach. Making a lot of money or making less does not mean, constantly overspend on clothes, on food, on shopping, on travel. Social media has a part to play in this as well, in my personal opinion, where you see how other people are living, and it creates this kind of desire to, yes, I too want to go on vacation, but then you look at your budget, you just put on a credit card and you let somebody else worry about it. Well, that bill comes due. So what exactly is going on? How much of this, and I'm personally, my personal philosophy on spending money is not necessarily just to cut your budget to the bare bone. I don't believe in living to a bare bone budget. in life we must live with surplus, and we must enjoy and make good money and live a good life. However, I am also anti-waste, right? Just being wasteful in how you're managing your finances. So, or being triggered by other factors that's not really core to what you really care about. So going on vacation just because other people are going on vacation, when you rather stay at home and go to the movies, like that is important. So I see one, hey, what's coming in versus what's going out, making sure that you're not overspending. 2, reviewing what exactly is going out and see, well, where exactly is wasteful and not really adding value, and what is core to who we are. Listen, if date night with the wife is important, continue dating night with the wife, or dress or shopping, getting your nails done. If that's important to who you are, I'm team care for yourself. However, if you start to see extra waste around, just wasting money, food, shopping, things that's excessive, I would suggest you cut that, because a potential recession could come. And we all could be potentially impacted. 3 is just make sure that from a savings perspective that you have at least some kind of reserve. People, it's always surprising me when people live without reserves and have reserves, some kind of money put aside. Like,
it's important.
If you're living without no reserves, you have no money in the bank, you have nothing put away, just at least to mitigate in bad circumstances or things that happen for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you could be potentially impacted. So it's good savings. The last is making sure that you're on top of it from a job market perspective. Hey, is my company doing well? If you see your company starting to downsize a little bit and your job might have been okay from the first layoff, and you don't go look at your resume, you don't go look at, okay, what other companies could I potentially apply for? If something happened to my job, what is my plan to be able to get another job? You are living in dream world, you are living in la la land, and you could be impacted. I don't care who you are. If you see your company's downsizing or things, or you're in one of those roles that companies are constantly looking for to lay off, not to pick on anyone, but recruiters are starting to feel this, right? Like, because a lot of companies might not, I've used their recruiting orgs. If you're a recruiter and maybe you survive layoff 1, you survive layoff 2, you got to go brush up on that resume and be ready to look out for potentially a new job, because you could be potentially impacted. So for me, those are, I guess, the 4 key things. It's do not spend more than you're making. 2, looking at what you are spending on and see where can you cut the fat. 3, bulk up on your savings. And then 4, make sure from an employment, you're either knocking out the park for your current job, or you position yourself well to go get a better job if something does happen.
Yeah, I think listen, this is definitely well said. And one thing I'm going to add to, from the job perspective, obviously the home perspective, you said exactly right. Don't spend what you own. Have some savings account, emergency fund, whatever you call it, and make sure that you're managing your personal finance accurately. If you are in a company today, you're an employee, your number one goal is trying to help 2 things. How can I make my company more money, or how can I help them reduce costs? If you are not solving these 2 problems for your company, you are going to be on a chopping block when recession hit. Because because the first thing they're going to do is that they're going to look at their P&L statement, or what they call the profit and loss statement. Is Caleb a valuable asset to my team? Because you cost money. Okay. Every employee, it doesn't matter if you work for a Starbucks, serving whatever coffee, or you are somebody who picks trash, or somebody who is a CEO of a company, or somebody who's a director. If you are in this market and you are just going to work and willy-nilly just enjoy, go ahead and enjoy it. just enjoy. Go ahead and showing up. Go ahead and do that. Whenever I wake up, I think Stephen A said this. Said whenever I go to work, I'm trying to find out some ways to help ESPN make more money. He's absolutely correct. Every time I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, how can I make more money? Or how can I make Google more money, or Azure more money? How can I make Disney more money? That is a question you need to be asking yourself, or Starbucks or whatever. If you're not making them money, you're going to be. And how can you make them more money? Your work ethic, showing up on time, don't take long lunches, grind.
Not long lunches now.
Now we're taking lunches, and working from home, and it's like throughout the day they're not working. The hustle mentality is gone. We need to bring back that. Again, I'm not saying that. Hey, listen, I'm not saying that you have families, you have kids to do, but all I'm just saying is that you want to be a valuable asset on your team. That you're going to be indispensable when shit excuse my French, when whatever ish hits the fan, you're not the first to go. So that is one of the things that, you can build a moat and also another thing. So that's number one. Number two is around the skill set. A company can fire you from your jobs, but they cannot fire you from your skills or your work. I call it your work. If you have a skill set, whatever your skill set is it consulting services? Is it marketing? Is it sales? If you have this skill, you are still going to be in high demand. Build your skill sets and make sure that you position yourself. So just in case your company, for some reason, it's too expensive for them, you can go to another company where your services might fit to help their business grow. Absolutely. Build your skill set and position yourself in the marketplace, because you don't get paid for what you do. You get paid for the value you bring to the table. That is a key metric that you need to understand, that most people need to understand. So it's very critical, especially when things are dicey right now. Having a strong skill set in the marketplace, a company can fire you, but they can't fire your skills, because that belongs to you personally and something that you've worked for that is indispensable. So that's one way you can, protect yourself.
You're dropping the gems. I love it. No, you're absolutely right. Right. It is. That's exactly what you get paid for. It's an exchange of value, right? You show up to work, you deliver value, right, by sharing your skill sets, your experience, your expertise to help the company grow, and in exchange for that, right, they compensate you with your paycheck, and that so that's an opportunity for you to continue to help this company grow, and that certainly, right, helps you add value. But two is also the skill set point, which is what you've mentioned so eloquently. As long as you're growing with your skill set and you're adding value, whether a company decides to shut down, they lay you off, you're not as worried, because yes, I've got my 3-month savings, or right, I've got some money in my savings, so I don't have to, I'm not going to be on the streets. And now, listen, if somebody is incredibly valuable, they're going to come pick you up. And newcomers like, wow, I can't believe this person let you go. We'll be more than happy to have you. And that's kind of how you've seen it. But if you're the kind of person that you're just middling in, you think your company is just going to be around for the next 30 years, 40 years, and the paycheck will just continue to come in while you're doing the bare minimum, I don't think that's going to work. So,
yeah. I mean, upskilling yourself is very, very critical. Whatever you want to take some classes, like whatever classes you want to take based on the industry you were in, whatever, just take something, upskill yourself, read books, get off the computer, get off Instagram, get off.
I don't know. Read the book.
Get off social media. Get off social media. Build your skill set, because the skill sets that you build today will definitely, the returns are going to be more in the future, because in the future you can do whatever you want to do, given the best practices that you've instilled today. So yeah. So I mean, again, that's how you can. A hedge, just provide a hedge against a recession. And I'll weave these two topics together, I think, in the spirit of time, which is so, I think the Fed talked about inflation is going to be higher for longer. So if inflation is going to be higher for longer, it means that the cost of capital for businesses are going to be very, difficult, because companies today, I think I've been talking to customers, and most of them have been telling me, like, Caleb, listen, I like to do something, but the cost of capital is expensive. Our management are trying to find where can I put money at? And it sounds like a lot of companies are driving most of their money to generative AI, which is the new buzzword. Why? Because they think it's going to help them drive productivity gains for their business. So to that, Toib, can you, I guess, give a quick synopsis of what you're seeing in the market, given that, you work for a big, this lot of generative AI, any things you're seeing from your end, and why companies are investing in generative AI?
There is nothing. Yeah, listen, today there is nothing more exciting or in terms of buzzwords that we're hearing overall than AI. AI. Yep. I mean, people are excited about it. CIOs are excited. CFOs are excited. CEOs are excited overall, right? And if you look at, what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about, generative AI? It's really this combination of artificial intelligence, right? Plus now plus the natural language processing. So you have technologies, right? You have computers that's been trained to now be able to generate like human-like responses, right? Perform human-like actions and activities. methods before that was very direct and mundane, right? Before it could only before technology, computers were only programmed at, hey, if I input A, I respond back with B. Now it's being able to decode that to, hey, if you input more complex conversations, right, it's able to have this pattern recognition to respond in like human like, and it's generating its own answer based on the inputs rather than just kind of this direct you input A, I can only answer with B. What that is doing, though, it's allowing you, or ultimately, and companies are thinking about this as well, how do I leverage these kind of cutting edge technology to drive productivity within my business overall, right? So you think about, one of the best cases that people are talking about is in your call center environment, right?
Yeah.
Chat bots have been around now for a little bit of time, but if you've ever interacted with some of the basic chat bots that I've seen, they're very basic. Sometimes, right? It has some keywords that you can input in, and it's programmed to say, if you say something around, I want to see my bank balance. It's almost like it's hard coded to say, okay, sure, just pull up from this point. Now, though, you can have a much more deep and intelligent conversation with something like a Gen AI bot that is for a customer, call center. So now, instead of just, what's my bank balance, you'll have a more conversation around, I was recently charged a fee of $30 for this transaction, and I don't believe I should be charged. And you're having this conversation with, right, the call center bot that is being programmed with Gen AI type capabilities, and it's recognizing some of the patterns that you're communicating, and it's being able to respond back very complex rather than just passing you off to a call center agent rep. What does that do for productivity? Well, one, as humans, we these days, especially millennials and Gen Zs, they don't want to call into call centers anymore, right? No one wants to call in and wait online, and you have to wait on the phone and talk to someone. They're saying no. So now I can just go on a bot, and it's easy. It's also more scalable. So now instead of just if it's a call center rep, they can only answer maybe one phone call at a time. You have your Gen-powered AI bots that's now able to answer millions of conversations with millions of customers. You're able to deliver better customer experiences. So companies are really excited, right? Because you are able to have the scalable access to take care of your customers, to reduce some of your human power and human needs for just kind of mundane activities. And hopefully, because I know a lot of people get scared when they think about Gen AI. They're like, oh, yeah, jobs are going to be eliminated and we're not going to have any jobs. I completely disagree. I think there's nothing more farther than the truth. Like, the human ability to be creative and constantly come up with new innovation and new needs is always unfulfilled. So the less people we have in call centers to answer mundane calls like what's my bank balance and some of these complex but still simple questions, the more we can deploy that human capital to go work on more complex human creative problems that needs to be solved with only human creative needs. So I still believe that we'll still need people, we'll still need jobs, more jobs are coming, but certainly Gen AI is exciting. Anybody who's been using ChatGPT, Bard, and a few others know the possibility and the potential there. And we're going to start to see this even at a larger scale across a lot of companies.
Yeah, I think you said it right. I wanted to double click on something you said around the call centers and chatbot. There was this guy, I think one of the co-founders of Zillow, Rich Barton, said, generative AI is the race to intimacy, building intimacy with your customer. And that's very, very powerful because knowing the first name and the last name of your customer is not enough. Like, you need to be able to build that intimacy based on the chatbot that that the customer will be feeding it. And as Steve said, it will make some inferences and figure out, are there potential areas where I can help my customer? For example, if you have a website, and your website has a chatbot, and it's not, and that chatbot is not powered by generative AI, I think you are leaving a lot of money on the table in terms of potential upsell or cross-sell abilities for your business. Yeah. That is the power of generative AI, and also generative AI is not only geared towards the customer experience. It can also impact for example, pharmaceutical companies. Let me just give a quick, share of how generative AI is impacting different industry verticals today. So I think McKinsey came out with a report. I'm going to, let me share that here. McKinsey came out with a report as to areas where generative AI is impacting businesses. So high tech, obviously, banking systems, is impacting that area as well. Pharmaceutical, medical product, telecommunication, insurance, media, advanced manufacturing, which is probably going to be around predictive maintenance. How are you able to predict when your machines are going to break, and then it can sell a signal to your workers to go fix it before it actually breaks down, so you don't have to spend more money buying new equipment. Consumer packaged goods. How can you understand the customer 360 or customer 720, and how can you deliver value to your customer? Because now, again, going back to what we talked about, interest rates are going to be higher for longer. It means that customer or consumers are going to be cash strapped. As I think in the previous session, we were talking about how savings are draining, and there might be a slowdown in consumer spend. Now is the time for you to figure out, who do I need to be targeting? Who are my customers with money who can purchase my product? And generative AI can be a tool in the toolbox to help you do that. But I wanted to double click on one final thing, which is technology. To me, is a means to an end. It's a seasoning to the main course. Meaning that if you do not have a solid business model, generative AI is not going to save you. If you do not have a product market fit, having fully defined who your customers are and don't know exactly how to serve your customer, is not going to help you. Generative AI is there to amplify. It's an amplification tool that helps you to do your job effectively in an automated fashion, to not only improve the productivity of the workforce, but also improve the experience of your customer. That is it. It's not going to, because it sounds like everything, someone creates a new water, generated AI water. No, or they create a pen. No, the pen is not going to write for you. If you have a bad, maybe it can stop time. But the essence here is that understanding, fully fleshing out your business model is very, very critical. Understand who your customers are, and putting on top, generative AI will help it expand your business. Why don't you just talk? And also the final thing is about generative AI is built on data. You need enough data for that to work. If you don't have enough data, it might not be a good use case for you. So another component to it.
Absolutely right. This is what happened, right? Overall, whenever we hear a technology, whenever we hear a certain term or something exciting gets rolled out, it creates this huge buzz. Everybody gets excited about it. And unfortunately, a lot of unsustainable business come along and they just slap whatever the hot topic name is, because investors, right, they get excited and they might overfund, even though there's no real business at the bottom of this. I think we saw a lot of that happen in the 2000s when with the rise of the internet, right? And that created the .com bubble, because people were building companies that didn't make no sense. They just put .com on top of it. It's going to be on the internet. We're gonna make a lot of money together, right? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. To your point, AI or Gen AI is an amplifier, right? The technology is here to really elevate a great business model already, right? You've got a great product, you're meeting the customer needs, and you've built the right connections, and you're capturing the right data. To your point, capturing the right data on the right customers, and now you then couple in this Gen AI technology to really amplify the experience for your customers, which strengthens, to your point, strengthens loyalty. You're not able to drive revenue increases. You're hopefully able to drive down some of your operating and cost to serve your customers, and hopefully, and increase your customer lifetime value. Certainly all that piece, but none of that is possible if from a foundation perspective, you don't have a great product, you're not meeting a customer, you're not meeting a need in the market, and you don't have customers who are paying customers who are willing to say, this is a product, this is a service that I find valuable. If none of that doesn't matter, if you're just slapping Gen AI on everything. So, a lot of CEOs, CIOs are getting excited and everybody wants to learn about it. But at the end of the day, you've got to go make sure that you still can't skim on product, right? But at the same time, my data that I have, I'm collecting the right data, and then I'm bringing this technology on it to really be an amplification of my overall process.
Yeah, I think you said it accurately right, and I think having the right data is very critical, because if you have the garbage in, garbage out, if you have the bad data, then you're going to have a bad, the AI will just amplify whatever data you imputed into it. So I think going back to the basic, understanding what your product is. Do you have an amazing product? Working on your product, and then having a strong distribution model of those products, and then again finding the best way to serve your customer. It will be very, very intrinsic, and I also implore every company to look into their current portfolio of operations and figure out, where do I think generative AI makes sense, because there are some areas where Gen AI doesn't make sense. You just have to meet with the customer face to face. There's some businesses where it's a face to face conversation. Generative AI cannot do it. But for example, in real estate, I mean, it's a face to face business by nature, how the deals are made. However, we can leverage generative AI to help us evaluate deals in terms of the valuation of a property, given historical data that real estate has that have been untapped. So that could be one component where generative can impact. But yeah, there's a lot we can talk about. But I know that we are up to the hour. So listen, a big thank you to our fantastic guest for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed our first episode of our podcast. And I wanted to say this: at Wealth Wave Podcast, we are always eager to feed the mind and challenge the times when it comes to investing philosophies, market insights, and real estate strategies. So we hope you liked it. Please like or subscribe at the bottom of the page, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye bye.